Peptides, known and unknown. Peptides. Today, most people are aware of the benefits of peptides. Researchers and physicians keep telling us about drugs and dietary supplements that contain peptides. They help us both to reinvigorate the body and stay fit and overcome illness. Glossy magazine ads promote beauty products. They contain peptides that take care of the skin and help to keep it well groomed. What are peptides whose full benefits are still waiting to be uncovered? Peptides, from the Greek peptos, meaning nutritious, are a family of substances whose molecules are built from the remains of two or more amino acids. In 1900, German chemist Heinrich Emil Fischer proposed a hypothesis that peptides consist of a chain of amino acids formed by certain bonds. Chains of 20 to 50 amino acids form oligopeptides. If their number exceeds 50 or more amino acids, a protein is formed. In 1902, Fischer showed that amino acid residues formed a special type of bond, a peptide. In 1905, Fischer developed a method for synthesizing peptides in the laboratory. Scientists worldwide have pursued the study of peptides, and Russian researchers and Russian scientists have made great progress in this area. Moscow, the Institute of Chemistry and Natural Compounds of the USSR Academy of Sciences. Today, the Semyakin-Ovchinnikov Institute of Bioorganic Chemistry of the Russian Academy of Sciences.
I joined the institute in 1959, and in 1962 I attended the European Symposium in Moscow, organized by Semyakin. Researchers from all over Europe got together at our institute to discuss peptides. Working together with Semyakin and Ovchinnikov for many years, we dealt with individual products such as peptides. We developed some drugs and analyzed antibiotics. Did you see an abstract sculpture in the institute's courtyard? It is a peptide that forms a potassium complex and transports potassium through membranes, thereby disrupting the normal metabolism of microorganisms, which die when exposed to this antibiotic. This discovery was awarded the Lenin Prize at the time.
Vadim Ivanov, a Russian-born bioorganic chemist, one of the world's leading experts in protein peptide chemistry, started peptidomics, a new field in the study of peptides. He performed structural and functional analysis of hundreds of new natural peptides from animal and plant tissues. He collected the world's largest library of peptidomics.
What happens to peptides in living organisms? What is the origin of peptides? How many are they? Can we group peptides by function, or maybe by their location in different parts of the body, or different systems, tissues, fluids, and so on? Today, you can try to screen these things. The science of peptide system analysis is called peptidomics. We identified 20,000 peptides in moss, which was a model plant, and it proved to be the best for systematic peptide analysis. Besides, we set up such experiments. For example, we increased the proportion of a certain peptide, and the plant grew twice as fast. By regulating the level of peptides, we can vividly affect the growth of plants. And we'd like to apply what we've found in moss to something more practical, say potatoes, or something of the kind.
Antibiotic discoveries worldwide peaked in the 1950s and 1960s. Since then, a growing number of infections have become resistant to existing antibiotics. Researchers are looking for new effective drugs and, most importantly, safe ones. St. Petersburg, the Institute of Experimental Medicine. Vladimir Krokreikov spent more than 50 years discovering and researching new groups of antibiotic peptides, which have become his life work.
Since the 1970s, my students and I have studied peptides. First in rabbits, then in pigs, then in many other animals, including such exotic ones as jellyfish. It turned out that these peptides were surprisingly diverse in different species of animals and plants. But they have one common property. That is, they show tropism towards bacteria and fungi with high affinity. And both in phagocytosis and on the surface of the skin or the mucous membrane of the digestive, urogenital and respiratory tract, these compounds perform an important function. They prevent the reproduction of microorganisms inside the body, regardless of whether they are conditionally pathogenic or pathogenic organisms. This is the first line of molecular defense against infection, and it prevents bacteria, protozoa, fungi and viruses as well, according to recent studies. In other words, these are universal antibiotics. Peptide antibiotics are a natural product of the body.
The results of research on the structural and functional properties of endogenous antibiotic peptides and proteins delivered by Professor Vladimir Krokreikov allowed developing a new drug with antimicrobial and immunomodulatory activity. But it is difficult to overcome barriers to its implementation.
The developers of conventional antibiotics generate revenue estimated at tens of billions a year. And they find it a disadvantage when any drugs that are more effective than their own ones enter the market.
Back in the Soviet time, researchers envisioned the destructive power of stress for all organisms. Therefore, the Communist Party and the government of the USSR instructed researchers to develop a drug that can protect from stress factors. Moscow, the Institute of Molecular Genetics of the Russian Academy of Sciences.
Since 1978, the Institute's researchers were instructed, as they said at the time, by the competent bodies to create new drugs that could help people survive in extreme conditions. There was a whole range of such challenges to be met, including reactor control, powerful control panels for complex tasks, and they all required extreme human focus because people failed to process the input information.
It took more than a decade before Nikolai Myasodov, the doctor of chemistry, discovered and developed the world's first synthesized neuropeptide and proposed a drug based on neuropeptide to treat the effects of stroke.
There were very good data, not only from preclinical studies, but also from the clinical development for stroke treatment. The mortality rate dropped, but most importantly, the severe disability rate plunged too, and the drug got regulatory approval.
But only a short time ago, scientists in many countries doubted that it was possible to develop a peptide-based drug.
This is an example of developing a drug from the first idea based on a new structure. Like I said, some researchers refuse to admit that peptides can be used to design drugs. But they can.
на основе пептидов можно создать лекарство, но это действительно так.
The Soviet propaganda slogan, "Catch up and overtake America," was essentially referring to military power, which means that the Soviet army must be in full combat readiness and be able to resist various types of aggression and stress. St. Petersburg, S.M. Kirov Military Medical Academy.
Together with my friend, Colonel Vyacheslav Morozov, we have been studying the manifestations of stress since about our graduate years. We identified several stages of stress. The first alarm stage lasts about 24 to 48 hours, followed by resistance. The process is very individual, and then the body begins to recover on the fifth day. Approximately in 30% of people, the resistance stage is delayed for some reason, and recovery is slow. This brings about complications, health problems, and so on. So, how can we intensify the resistance stage? While the first alarm stage suppressed the functions of the thymus and epiphysis, we had an idea to isolate certain substances from the thymus and epiphysis of calves that would stimulate the resistance stage. This drove our interest in science. The substances we isolated from animal thymus and epiphysis turned out to be peptides. In other words, peptides were not our specific focus. We isolated biologically active substances, and they turned out to be peptides. These were drugs, and they still exist today, which were the activators or stimulants of the resistance stage.
Today, the best minds worldwide are joining forces to fight Alzheimer's disease. This disease takes away the memory and freedom, the best and most precious things. A person is unable to command themselves anymore. Despite the prevalence of Alzheimer's disease, no treatment has yet been discovered. Gatchina, the Leningrad region, Petersburg Nuclear Physics Institute, named by B.P. Konstantinov of National Research Center, Kurchatov Institute.
In our laboratory, we use transgenic and genetically modified Drosophila files, which display different signs, in particular of Alzheimer's disease. Ironically, Drosophila, a tiny fruit fly, which often flies in our kitchens, has a fairly complex nervous system and brain, which, in many ways, is similar to the animal brain, the human brain in particular. The genetically modified transgenic fruit flies that we use are characterized by some signs of Alzheimer's disease that is seen in humans, such as memory loss and neuron death. So the peptides that we have developed affect these indicators. They must improve the state of the body and slow down such pathological processes as neurodegeneration and memory loss. First, we showed that the peptides in question did not affect the lifespan of the fruit fly. That is, they were not toxic. Then we investigated the effect of peptides on memory and learning, Drosophila behavior, and brain neurodegeneration. While Alzheimer's disease decreases cognitive functions and memory and causes speech disorders, we took these disorders and, for further research, selected peptides that showed stronger effects on these signs. We have shown that our peptides were promising compounds for Alzheimer's disease treatment.
Наши пептиды являются перспективными соединениями для терапии болезни Альцгеймера.
But we will still need to check whether or not these peptides are involved in the same functions in mammals. Our department has recently launched a radiopharmaceutical testing center. And together with the Kurchatov Institute, we launched a research on the implementation of various potential drugs.
And while young scientists are on the verge of discovering a cure for Alzheimer's disease, the global population is facing another challenge: societal aging.
Aging is a success story. All countries, including the Russian Federation, face an increase in life expectancy. The predominance of older people over young requires changes in economic and social policy.
St. Petersburg Institute of Bioregulation and Gerontology. The institute studies the mechanisms of peptide drugs that regulate life processes and analyzes how they affect the processes of aging and longevity. According to Professor Vladimir Kavinsin, Vice President of the Gerontological Society of the Russian Academy of Sciences, the lifespan of Homo sapiens is 110 to 120 years.
In the beginning, we did not think in terms of the prolongation of life, but in our joint research with Vladimir Anisimov, the president of the Society of Gerontologists of the Russian Academy of Sciences, we studied the impact on chronic toxicity, that is, the safety of substances. Surprisingly, it turned out that the mice and rats that were treated with these medications had their average life expectancy increased by 30 to 40%, which amazed everyone. We found out that the use of thymus and epiphysis preparations beginning from the second half of life increased the average life expectancy by 30 to 40%, primarily due to a decrease in the frequency of tumor development by about 3 times. That excited our interest in peptide drugs.
Today, experts unanimously say Russian medicine is aimed at treating the existing diseases, but Europe is focused on prevention and cuts its healthcare costs because people become healthier.
According to the World Health Organization and experts in gerontology and geriatrics, age does not matter. That is, the rules of healthy, reasonable behavior are the same for all individuals at 18, 40, 60, and 100 years of age.
What can fill our senior years with joy? We create our own life scenario that determines our behavior. We must now adopt the best of what nature and science offer us.
Speaking of anti-aging medicine, we should highlight 5 main areas. The use of hormone replacement therapy, which has too many consequences, and therefore we do not address it in this country. Experts in Europe and Russia are researching the use of antioxidants. This gives its tangible results. A key area, in particular, targeting the age of 45 to 50 plus, is the use of neurotransmitter precursors, such as acetylcholine, which enhances metabolism and the activity of brain tissue. Somewhat forgotten are anti-diabetic drugs, which are mainly used for type 2 diabetes, but there is much evidence that they can prolong life and, accordingly, prolong youth. Certainly our key focus are peptides that can affect carbohydrate metabolism and enhance the processes in the pancreas, the neuroendocrine system, and its individual organs. In other words, each organ and system has its own solution for each problem. All these make up a huge peptide library.
Thousands of new drugs are discovered daily, but each drug has undesirable side effects and contraindications. Today, scientists face the challenge of ensuring that the next generation medicines are safe for human health.
Research is one of our core areas. We study the existing peptide preparations and develop new ones. Peptides help recovery. They are indispensable for a healthy lifestyle. Today, people have to struggle with unhealthy environment, poor nutrition and water, and psycho-emotional stressors. They have strong impacts on the body and life quality. They drain the body and host defenses and deplete the balance of peptides in the body. This is why peptide bioregulators are needed to reduce the burden and support the body in its effective struggle. In my opinion, the peptide potential has not yet been fully discovered. There are natural products and they have no side effects. And this has been confirmed by numerous clinical and laboratory studies.
Today, scientists, pharmacologists, and doctors develop, research, and apply both natural and synthetic peptides. One common question is, what is the difference between them?
Synthetic peptides are the exact copies of natural ones. They are no different. But every natural extract contains more than 100 peptides. That is, the extract captures a larger number of genes. With the exact point of application, the synthetic peptide has a narrow but stronger spectrum. There are more than 100 peptides in the extract, and one peptide is more powerful, although only for a certain function. So only a doctor can figure out what is best for you.
Peptides have become available to the public relatively recently in the form of medicines, biologically active substances, and cosmetics. Russia manufactures them according to all international standards.
We hold 3 different quality management certificates: the General Safety Certificate, Food Safety Certificate, and the International GMP, which imposes the strictest requirements. We are under a strict control and commit to the most stringent standards of product quality, cleanliness, production control, and documentation.
While one dose of medications and cosmetics is not enough to fight down aging, it's time to review the very concept of age.
Besides, the aging of society has advantages that we often disregard. A person can potentially work longer hours, use their experience, and make a worthy contribution to society.
Going back to the developers and researchers of peptides, despite their advanced age, they continue to do what they love, that is, study the new properties and capabilities of peptides.
A new use has been recently found for the peptides that affect cardiometabolic syndrome. It is called a disease of the 21st century and associated with cholesterol, sugar, type 2 diabetes, blood rheology, and obesity. There are no available drugs that could improve such conditions. We are researching one tetrapeptide to treat cardiometabolic syndrome, although the drug is still far away. But such research is underway. About 80 years ago, we showed that such pathological conditions were accompanied by changes in peptidomes, the peptide composition. It looks like we are heading in the direction where we can diagnose by peptide analysis. That is, we will find a particular disease by the peptide composition. There is a human breast cancer gene. Together with our Italian peers, including Claudio Franceschi, a great scientist in Italy, we conducted a study in his laboratory. We took transgenic mice, that is, mice with implanted human breast cancer gene, and administered some peptides to them, including epitalon, and suppressed the gene of the breast cancer and cut its activity 4 times and reduced the tumor. This is a brilliant result that has been published abroad. This targeted regulation of gene activity is the future of medicine.
In such a short time, we shared only a small portion of our knowledge about peptides. Every day, scientists worldwide discover and research new peptides, and thousands of patients and their loved ones have high hopes for peptides in the fight against cardiovascular diseases, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's diseases. And maybe, at this very moment, thanks to these substances, another global problem of humanity is being solved.